Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mackie says he, while Dave is fumbling with his microphone.
Yeah, it was all the way around the side of me. I'm sorry about that, everyone. I just realised when I started talking. Okay, we're broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on www. You guessed it, revolution.radio. Who knew that was a thing? I know it's been a thing for some time, but I just still think it's pretty cool. It's like .tv, right? But it's radio, where it's more than just radio. So jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 359.
950 and 300. 350, good lord.
You know what? If you ever want to don't, or stop doing that, just let me know. Because I have pause for Mecky written in my notes here. It's on air, and I love Mecky's version. I'm going to take it. I'm going to dibs on this version. It's on the line, and it's on your smart device. So grab an app to listen from anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. Still waiting for that.
Mm-hmm.
If
me
you missed,
too, man. Me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. If you missed Solaris's show, it was an awesome show yet again. And I do love. So I've been practicing my laps for a sim race that's on tomorrow night, and I had Solaris' show in the background, seeing my headset over. It was like I was into car radio kind of thing. It was really cool. Tonight she had on Steve Colburn, and I think a chemist and alien implants were the topics.
Wow, cool.
And I got to hear almost all of the show. I came in about half an hour in. But you know what? If you don't know who we're talking about, if you're listening to this archive and you don't know who Solaris is, it only cost $5.95 to get access. That's Australian dollars, AUD. And you can get access to the station's archives. When you do that, not only do you get access to maybe our archives if you listen to this show and you're going in motivated by that, but you can go in and see all of the hosts' shows, and you can download them, and they're available in MP3 format, so you can listen in your own time, which is the thing. People are doing that these days. It's what we do. We don't have time for all this, stopping our life for something. It's now made available so you can do it when your life has that pause, which is fantastic. So take advantage of that. Mackie and I live in Australia, and because of such, and our respect for the custodians of the land, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. Where I live, it's the Dark and Young people, and where Mackie lives, it's the
Dark people.
And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And I also want you, the listener, to understand that beneath all of the stuff that we've made, like the houses and all the concrete and the roads and everything, that we've placed upon the top of the lands which have had stories passed down for more than 240,000 generations of people. Think about that for a minute. Let that sink in.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important amount of time. Really, really is. So, now, wow, what a week, Mackie. How have you been?
Sweating, but good, thank you. It's been quite hot in Australia. We've broken all kinds of temperature records. Now, see, just very quickly, and it's a leading thing, then I'm throwing it back to you. People say, there was a record broken that was set in 1927, which is true. Like Adelaide had the hottest day since 1927. Now, that's okay. And you're right. In 1927, it was quite hot. 40-something odd degrees, right? And now it's 49 or whatever it was. It's close to 50 already. Now, in and of itself, you wouldn't think that's a big thing because you get free temperatures all the time. The problem is, or it becomes a problem, when it's hot everywhere at once. But it's a freak event. So I think Dave posted something around the fact that the 15 hottest places on Earth, and this came either from the ABC or the BBC.
That's right.
The 15 hottest places on Earth in that week, which was last week, I think.
Yes.
Were all in Australia. The 15 hottest places were all in Australia. That hasn't happened before. And we've been breaking heat records in Melbourne, in Adelaide, in Sydney, out in the bush, or probably even further in the bush, inland. It got to 50 degrees. Mm-hmm. It actually got to 50 degrees Celsius. And as Dave likes to point out, the hot water setting in your home, in Australia at least, the safety setting is at 50 degrees. So you can't actually have your water any hotter in your internal hot water system. Of course, you can boil it on your stove, whatever you want, but whatever comes out of your tap will not be hotter than 50 degrees Celsius. Mm-hmm. That's pretty hot. Okay. So, Dave, we've been sweating. I've managed to get down to the beach a few times. It's a really great family beach in Sydney. It's Shelley's. It's just south of Manly, a bit of a walk, or you can park up there. It's a really great beach for families and little kids. There are hardly any waves. It's really protected. It's a good little cafe there. And then just, stay as cool as possible to make sure my girls stay hydrated. Make sure if we go out, we wear a hat. We have long sleeves and all that. The sunscreen, of course, not too much, because that actually damages your skin as well. Believe it or not.
Yeah. But at least you won't die. You won't die of skin cancer. You'll die of some kind of other thing that's related to the cream.
Yeah, it'll burn your skin, right? No, but yeah. So and finally, 359. That's in excess of I think 800 hours of, because we had some longer shows as well. It's in excess of 800 hours of content.
Yes,
if you will. A lot of stuff. I've gone through the stuff we've done. And we've covered a bucket load of topics, and staying true to form. Today, we produced 2 shows, or show notes for 2 shows, both running to about 34 pages. And then I let Dave decide which one we wanted to do. He's chosen the easy one. Because the other, okay, I'll tell you what they are. Right? So what is Black Budgets? All right, that's the one we're going to do. Black Budgets. And we've got some recent information. It's really interesting, actually. It's really interesting. And the other one is the lost years of Jesus. The lost years of Jesus. And that was prompted by a recent BBC documentary around the lost years of Jesus. It's actually, when I started looking at it, Dave, I'll tell you, there's some crazy stuff out there. Yeah. The reason we're doing Black Budgets today, and we're doing Jesus at some other point during the year, this is the year of high strangeness. This is the year where we're going to look at things like, well, let's take a step back and fully understand what this is all about, and why is the shiny side here? Why is Revolution Radio here? What are we trying to do? And the simple truth is, we're trying to point out, certain things that might not seem quite right, or there's some mysteries that nobody wants to hear about, or things of that nature. Now, people always say, this is really my bugbear. The government would never do this, and the government would never do that. It's inconceivable that they had a hand in this will never be monetized. 9/11. It's inconceivable. 10/12. It's inconceivable that we will ever be exposed to any secret experiments or mind control programs, or whatever the case may be. It's inconceivable, because the government would never do it. Plus, there's no money for it.
So Meki, what you're saying, the past has zero impact on the future, then, because haven't they done all this stuff already? Haven't they exposed us to chemicals? Haven't they done all this stuff knowingly and experimented? And what about those poor people on that island that they sent back to the island after the Bikini Atoll tests, just to see what would happen to people? Right. Yeah, and that was in the 50s.
Absolutely. So,
I know in the 70s they sprayed from the rooftops.
That sounds crazy, Dave.
in Detroit, they sprayed from the rooftops a chemical just to see what would happen.
That's
So you know, you've got to really wonder. So it makes right, okay. So they surely couldn't have any money for this, right?
No, clearly, right? Now, so this is actually, we're closing this out, by the way, Dave, with the debunking of black budgets and the missing trillions. Because part of this black budget thing is, I looked at the missing trillions, right? Not just the missing trillions from 2001, but the missing trillions since. And I went to, this is the website I went to, and I actually did a search. This is called www.metabank.org.
Oh,
all right, www.metabank.org. So if you want anything debunked, this is the site you go to. They'll do their best to debunk whatever, right? So I went there, right?
They'll debunk their own existence.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm not going to give the fun away here, so you have to stick with us until we finish the show cycle. Suffice it to say that I wasn't really impressed with the way they tried to debunk the fact, in my opinion, that some money has gone missing. And I've actually left it in totality. I've left it in the show notes in total. I didn't edit it. I didn't shorten it. I left it in exactly the length and in exactly the same wording as they put it. And we're going to share that with you. And then once we've done the show and it comes to the end of it, we will share with you how we are wrong and the money is not missing. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But look, it is important to understand there's a vast amount of money, and I mean vast. It is tremendously huge. It is bombastically gigantic, the money that we don't have and that we don't seem to get any accounting for. Forget the money that was given to Wall Street in the biggest redistribution of wealth ever, right? So billions, tens, hundreds of billions of dollars were given to Wall Street bankers, banks, and financial institutions to bail them out with no plan of repayment. So taxpayer money was given to them and said, oh yeah, look, here you go, don't do it again, bad bankers. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about money that it just seems to have disappeared. And in fact, in some instances, it's open that the money isn't there. We don't know what it is. So there's actually a black budget. We're going to go into that in a second after we do the news. So there's actually a black budget component to the US budget. And then there's money that just disappears. So there are two different things. There's the budget, the black budget. There it is. All right. So you've got the budget. That's the real thing. Then you have the black budget. And then you have the money that just seems to go walkabout. But Dave, talk to me about the news that we have here.
Not a problem. So, look, there was two big stories. The MAGA Red Hat, which just, I barely even want to talk about that. And I was a school kid with a red hat, and I was a Native American playing an instrument. And the 20 or 30 seconds or whatever it was of footage that went social viral didn't depict the entire scene. There was about an hour and something footage that I watched. And, kids being kids, and this guy's playing it right up in his face, and it was sort of taken out of context, and he's been called a racist, and I think he's got an attorney now because he wants to sue the media because it was completely taken out of context. However, the clickbait that they sent around, the emotional piece that had no investigative journalism around it, it was simply just a reactionary piece where people would be able to connect an emotion to it immediately. And it's a negative emotion, and I thought that was terrible. And now it was focused in on this poor kid with a Make America Great Again hat, MAGA. And I feel terrible for the kid. Everyone's been 16 and done, had a smirk on their face when the teacher's trying to teach a lesson. Everything has gone wrong, right? This was a catastrophe, but it was a cascade effect. Nothing really was terrible about the entire thing, just that someone filmed it and it went out and people were connected to it. Now, I was wondering, why would the mainstream media promote such hatred unless because I always have to take a step back and analyze it for what it is without becoming, don't attach your own emotion to it, right? And the only thing that I can say is they're intentionally creating a divide. That's it. There's no more, no less. It's as simple as that. And that divide it's a travesty that we should see this in today's media. Maybe it's our news cycle apathy which is causing them to do more clickbait. But the more clickbait they do, the less we're going to tune into the news. But the more emotion they get, they were able to pull this emotion from everyone, and it went viral. And I'm really disappointed in the mainstream media for not researching it. But one of the things that they get to do is put a 2-line statement later on, sometime down the track, and say, well, we were wrong. And that's all they have to do. That's all they have to do. They don't have to do a media release equaling the size of the problem. They only have to say one thing, and it's even under their breath. And that's awful, and I don't like that. So that was one thing. The other thing that I sort of, it sounds negative, but it isn't negative, and that is that Stone was indicted. All right? And what was he indicted for? Perjury? No. I mean, lying to an investigation? Sure. But the things that he lied about, are they going to have any negative... are there any connotations which, could bring Trump down? Nope. No, it doesn't seem to be. There's still no proof that anything that he did or anything he's going to say is going to have... it's not going to change the outcome of their investigation. But okay, so how did they take him down? And why do we know about it? Because CNN was there to film the whole thing, and they said they arrived there just happenstance. Sure, you wait till that leak comes out. Happenstance to be there, and it was, they said something like 16 vehicles arrived, FBI vehicles, armed FBI agents, kicked the door down, didn't knock politely, didn't wait till this 63-year-old was having breakfast in the morning, didn't wait for any of that. Oh, let's show real force. But it was unjustified force. There's absolutely no need for that. They could have just politely knocked on the, maybe wait till he woke up, rang him and said, look, we hope you're going to be here because we're going to pick you up and take you downtown, right? Didn't have to be an FBI bust. Crazy force. 63-year-old guy that just said some stuff in court, right? Anyway, so that is done. But what about the other people that deserve the same treatment? All of the people on the other side of the political fence that have seemed to go ignored. They've been ignored. They're not getting this treatment. So we have Comey. He lied to Congress. What happened to him? Nothing. Don't worry about that. He was shut down by Hillary and her team, it seems. Or I think. What about Brennan? Same thing. What happened to him? Nothing. What about James Clapper? Nothing. Where are these people at 4 o'clock in the morning coming, knocking their door down with CNN filming it? What happened to that? What about Andrew McCabe? He lied to the FBI. And what about, was it James Baker? He leaked information. Now, someone leaked this raid to CNN. You'd imagine they'd have their door kicked down. And even Comey leaked information. And nothing. So some people have been saying that this is bigger than Watergate. Right? That this stuff has happened, but the next one, why do we forget about this one? So remember that it's been published already out there in the internet that Hillary Clinton mishandled classified emails on an unsecured private server. That's what's in the media. And then she had an obstruction of justice by not only what was it called? The software. Like she destroyed 33 subpoenaed emails, destroyed them, and then BleachBit is the software. All of the hard drives, and then dismantled the devices. Are you constructing something, Mackie? So she also dismantled the devices that they were in, like fully pulled apart the servers and all of the laptops, took everything apart and BleachBit them all. Right, they're unrecoverable. Now, that itself is a punishable offence. Where's the 4 o'clock knock on the door by the FBI agents there, right? So these people that I've mentioned so far, what side of the fence are they on? And
the right side,
the correct side, and the question you've got to ask yourself and see if you can find out is, why are they being protected? This, to me, and since Trump has been in power, it seems as though there is a dead set, that means certain, dead set, team to find a way to bring him down. There must be a team involved in this. It's not just a democracy, we'll just let him run his time, and then at the end of that, you either succeeded or you failed, and we're going to pull you, we're going to have the people vote you out, right? But what's their biggest fear? That he continues being the political leader, right? That's the biggest fear. Can't have him do anything. And today he called the halt to payments. He called a halt to the payments. Now people are going to get paid, but only for 3 weeks. And then it looks like he's going to put the emergency powers into operation and build the wall from the defence budget.
That looks interesting.
That's an interesting point. And you have to imagine, how is that going to look? Will there be martial law? Got to call it emergency. So maybe there's martial law near the border or something. I don't know. But this whole thing appears to be a two-tiered justice system. Isn't that an oligarchy, Mackie?
Well, it is. And that's exactly the kind of system we're living under. But to your point on martial, so I don't think he can declare martial law unless there's a state of emergency. There is no state of emergency. He says there is, there isn't. So this is really going to be very interesting. We also can't deploy, even if they're martial law, he still couldn't deploy American regular troops on the United States soil.
He can now. That's been changed. No, it's been changed. The law was changed. They can actually. Yes, sorry. They can. Yeah, they can. That's right. Yeah, what's that?
That's.
It's a line through it in the dictionary.
Beginning of the end, my friend. Yeah, that's the beginning of the end. That's next to the end of Post Comitatus is a picture of the end next to it. But there was a good reason why troops weren't allowed to be deployed. The founding fathers, if you will, and they're all men, so they are the founding fathers, had to fight regular troops. That the British. Well, no, yeah, but they actually were fighting regular troops. The British they were fighting in the colonies were regular troops. And they said, no, that's not going to happen again. We're going to deploy troops against our own people. We're going to, National Guard, yeah. I mean, if there needs to be order, but this is going to be a citizen army then, right? Not a professional army, or conscripted, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So yeah, it's difficult. But having said that, I've been thinking about the wall, my friend, and I'm thinking a moat would be better. Why do we have a moat? Because I went to the zoo the other day, this week with my
It's school holidays. That's
and right. They have school holidays. And I also went to the Australian Museum. So I went to the Australian Museum, and I went to the zoo, and also went to the wildlife park. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, there's a stuffed crocodile in the Australian National Museum. It's monstrous. It's like 7 meters long. You think 7 meters is not a big thing? That's 3 stories in a house.
That's 7 meters. That's
3 stories in a house, right? Roughly.
You don't want it eating.
That's a big crocodile. No. And then they had skeletons in the zoo, but they also had this is a live saltwater crocodile in the wildlife park, and it's big. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dig a trench, right, all along the border.
Yeah.
Right from the Atlantic to Pacific. That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna fill that trench, which is gonna be like, I don't know, like 30 meters or something like that. We fill it with saltwater crocodiles. Boom.
Done.
Forget the wall. We need a moat, a trench, right? That's what you want. The wall is so yesterday. Come on.
Yesterday.
Get on the bandwagon here with me.
Do you know what you could do if you did that, Neki? We could export a whole bunch of our troublemakers over there. All of the salties,
that's right,
and the freshies, right? We can send them over because the dangerous
blue
part
bottles?
of even more. We can put tons of blue bottles. So this is funny, right? So blue bottle jellyfish doesn't kill you; it just hurts. It hurts a lot, right? But we just call it blue bottles. It sounds friendly. Like freshies.
Oh, that's not friendly. No.
Like a freshies. Right? We call them freshies. Salties. The dangerous part of that description has been deleted off there. Crocodile. We don't need crocodile. What about, the jellies, the box jellyfish? They're not good. Or the irukandji. We could put billions of irukandji in that moat, Becky. Be awesome.
Good. And you know what? We should be licensed. You and me, we should be the singular license holders to sell to the United States government. And then we're going to retire and buy a big boat. Before we
I
go
want
on,
a PT boat. My friend actually owned a PT boat.
I like PT boats. I really do.
You're not allowed to have 73 on the side, apparently. Apparently, you're not allowed to have numbers like that. Yeah. Because they're PT-73 from McHale's Navy,
No, I get that. This is the Funny Radio, everybody. I do want to quickly point that out. If you go to the Revolution.radio website, click on the sponsors ads. I mean, they're not corporate ads. I can guarantee it. These are independent producers or companies that will probably sell you something that's worthwhile. So this is the Funny Radio. Please do go ahead and donate if you want. Buy something if you can. Or maybe go into the archives. Stay for some mention at the beginning. Join up for $5.95 a month. Get access to everything. But it's important to understand that this is it's a free service that you're receiving, right? And we are not getting paid either. And the Nighthawks and Black Hawk. I was going to say Black Hawk. I was looking at the Black Budget show notes, and I was looking at Nighthawk's name in the chat. I'm going to say Black Hawk. Black Hawk! That's how my mind works. No, so Nighthawk, of course, runs the station, with a whole bunch of good people. It's not easy, though, and it's not free. Okay, so we don't have free energy. So if you can help out by donating or buying maybe some sponsors products, that's all goodness. But you're right. Dave, it would make sense to give them our blue bottles and salties and all wonderful things. There's so many things in Australia that can kill you. It's not even funny, right? I mean, I was cleaning out the garage. I found a couple of redbacks, and that's never a good thing. I was cleaning out the back of my house as well. Another couple of redbacks. These are black widow spiders, as you might know them in the States or elsewhere in the world. They sting. And they can potentially kill you. My size, probably not. I mean, I get pretty sick, but I'm probably 120, 110 kilos, I think. So 250 pounds. It would probably be hard pressed to kill me, but smaller people or children, elderly, they can certainly get off worse than any of us. So
Dave, guess what I found? I had a goanna at my block of land. Yeah. It was maybe about 1.5 to 2 meters. It was pretty big one. And I tried to take some footage of it. And you know what? I feel sorry for those people who are trying to take something, like a photo of a UFO or something they're seeing. Because you know what? When you're struggling to do it in a hurry, it isn't that easy.
It really is.
And I found I wasn't recording at all. And the photo I took in the end was terrible.
But having said that, I mean, now everybody knows this, right? But we still have some really amazing footage of these unusual events, right? Mm-hmm. All things being equal. But yeah, you're right. It's not an easy feat.
Especially when it ends up anecdotal, and you're going to believe me because it was a goanna, right? Which is a lizard, and it's a big lizard. It's sort of like that big one that can kill you in that island off Japan, right? It's sort of like that, but it's just not as big. And monstrous thing. I mean, it could have eaten a chicken because we had them running around. Jeez, it's been hot, Mecky. I'll tell you, it's been so hot and humid as well. So got to let the chickens out. And anyway, but look, outside of all that, the doomsday clock was set to 2 minutes to midnight. And the last time, and since it was established, the last time, because it's set by the Nuclear Commission, and they determine the threat level of nuclear war, the threat level of war, and world war. And what they do is they set the doomsday clock. And they do it once a year. They've just set it, and they've advanced it 1 more minute. And the last time, since they established it, was 1953. And since then, it got to a really safe place, like 10 minutes out. And now it's back again. It's back to 2 minutes to midnight. It's tied with the closest time ever, with the greatest fear ever. But that fear isn't like a public thing. We're not everyone walking around going, we're going to go to war any second. But the threat is there, and that's the big problem.
But do you know why? So this is the funny thing. I've been thinking about this as well, right? Because I mean, we're living in a world that's connected. We always have information at our fingertips, even if it's filtered or big media or whatever. But prior to our times, like in the times of World War I, World War II, forget the 19th century, but certainly in the 20th century, news media existed, correspondence existed, but it wasn't as pervasive as it is today. Having said that, people took the news more seriously, and there wasn't a lot of the information overload that we have today. I mean, these days, I guess one of the most prevailing attitudes in the media is if it bleeds, it leads. So if it's bad news, if it is a horrific accident, it'll make the news much more readily than a good story, or something that is beneficial or happy, because it draws more viewers. People are more interested. It's like watching a crash on the highway, and you cannot not look, right? You're compelled to look, and that's why traffic slows down. Because everybody just slows down. Rubberneckers, yeah. I deliberately do not do that. I deliberately go on the outside lane, never to look at it, and then just go on my merry way, because I just don't want to do that, because that could lead to other accidents. But the point here is that people weren't exposed to that much panicking, if you will, because everything is now breaking news and this and that and Ben Alliance, like the Fox News thing. No, watch the news or you will, be eaten by a lungfish or something if you don't watch this news. There's always something to draw you in and make you panicky, right? That didn't exist really in those olden days, and it wasn't until recent times that we've become maybe a bit jaded. And while the information is there, it doesn't really seem to bother us that much anymore. There's tension between China and Russia and the States or whatever, and there's just, there's trouble between Japan and China and Taiwan, and China and whatever, and there's a bit of stuff happening in the Middle East. There's just too much of it, Dave. There's too much happening. There's too much conflict. There's too much horror. There's too much war. And we have had wars. There hasn't been a single year since the end of World War II where there hasn't been war.
Perpetual war.
Perpetual war. 100%. And it wears you down. So I don't think people I do remember growing up in the 70s in Germany, right? And I said this before, and they did prepare us in these drills. And now looking back, it's hilarious. We would hide under our desks in school in case of a nuclear attack, and good luck with that.
At least, Mecky, that you won't get the initial burns.
Yes, that's
all right. But the shockwave will shower everyone in glass.
Yes, and then the radiation will get you.
And then the radiation gets you, yeah.
So we watched movies like The Day After. I don't know if you might not remember this, but it was a very real thing for us as children growing up. Like the Cold War, the tensions, and I can only imagine that something similar would have happened in the 60s, when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, things like that. These days, it is just there's just too much information. It just duck and cover, yeah. There's just too much going on. we have lost our yardstick. That's what we have done. We've lost our yardstick, and we are exposed to violence almost every minute of the day. Our children, ourselves, we play violent games. There's the movies are extremely violent. I mean, once in a while I watch an old movie, and sometimes the movies are really good. I mean, I love what's it called? The Christmas movie. It's a Wonderful Life. I love that movie. Right? I love movies of that era. I love Humphrey Bogart movies. Right? And, I mean, to me, they don't date. To me, they're as relevant as they were then, and as enjoyable. But the violence, right? Even in a Western or in a gangster movie, is only hinted at. So someone gets shot, they go, and they fall over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like there's no head exploding, there's no limbs being hacked off. No, there isn't, right?
And you don't get this sound effect.
No, you don't get any sound effect. No, but it's a lot gorier, it's a lot more realistic these days. And it has dulled us to all this violence. I mean, it really has, I think. And so that's why I think, Dave, the public just isn't as engaged, aware, worried. I don't know what the right word is here.
What about buried in their phones?
Well, that's
all
too.
social media. If they looked up once in a while, they'd see there's a crisis.
Oh, look, this is something. I mean, we've all become phone-based, right?
I like that term.
Yeah, no. First time I heard it was a friend of mine, Justin. If you're listening, Justin, it's your term. I'm not appropriating it. Justin Stuckey came up with it. As far as I'm concerned, he coined that phrase, a zombie. Yeah. But a phone zombie. And yes, you're 100% correct. And I see it more and more. And in Australia, you're not allowed to use your phone. You're not allowed to touch your phone while you're driving. Right? You're not allowed. Full stop. Hands-free, that's okay. But you can't touch your phone. I see so many people on the phone holding their phone.
Yeah, same.
And it's insane.
Double demerits is loss of license this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, that too, right? But it's just crazy and it's dangerous. But here we are. We are so attached to our phones.
Oh, you can't put it down for 5 minutes? Oh, no.
You can't. You cannot. That's the thing. People cannot do it. And it's funny when you watch people have dinner, in a restaurant or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not having dinner with each other. They're having dinner by themselves while they're on the phone, right?
With their friends who are hidden like. Yeah. Did you know, Becky, that the attention span of a person from 2016 compared to 2019 this year has fallen from 12 seconds to 6 seconds?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
not much now. We're goldfish now, right?
Oh, that's priceless.
You try, they're really saying you can't hold someone's attention that long before their mind starts to wander and they're going to start be on their phone again.
So my question is, and it's a serious question, right? I'm worried because we have a civilization to run here. What happens when people like that, and the vast majority? I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not, trying to, be the I told you so guy. No. What I'm wondering is how do we get people to fulfill the functions that we need fulfilled in the society, in the civilization, that the things that do need to, I guess, more of an attention span than 5 or 6 seconds. Things where you actually have to concentrate and work something out. Like work that is required to be done 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. A robotization, I guess. We put robots and algorithms in place. That's fine, but we still need people to some extent, right? And I'm worried that we're just going to run out of people suitable for work. I really do.
Well, we're nearly there. This is that. I think this crossroads would occur in any civilization. I think that no one has addressed this in the past. That we're going to run out of motivated people to do the work before we've invented robots. Mm-hmm. We'll have run out of motivation. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Can you see that? Yeah, no, look, we're going to fall short of the line, and not actually achieve it because we've social media caught us, and boom, there we go. What we were supposed to do? I forgot now, Mackie. What we're talking about? Yeah.
That's it. But I talked to my accountant, like this was last year, sometime, I don't know, October, November, whatever. Anyway, I talked to my accountant, and he said to me, you know what? In Australia, we have got a fairly good social security network. So people can actually live off the social security payments, right? So unemployment benefit, pensions, all that. That's actually enough money to live off. And he said to me, well, I mean, look at it this way. Why not live somewhere by the beach? And not in Sydney, that's expensive, but somewhere, up and down the coast or across the country somewhere. Mm-hmm. You can have a fairly cheap lifestyle, cheap rent, and you go surfing every day. The money you're getting from the government is enough to cover all your needs, right? And you could even take, odd jobs here and there you don't pay tax on. I mean, that's if that's who you are, that's a great lifestyle. And I have to say, no pressure, no stress. Go surfing every day if that's your thing, or something else, whatever. And I was thinking, well, yeah, in Australia you could. And who's to say that going forward, other countries aren't going to follow suit in this kind of thing, right? Especially as you have an aging population, right? There will be no one left to do the work. Okay, so what do you do? What do you do? Where do you get them all from? You have to come up with some alternative. You have to build the robot. But Dave, I mean, maybe we are the fools working in full-time jobs, right? Maybe we are the morons that got it all wrong. Maybe we should be out there just having fun and not having any responsibilities, not doing a job, just getting money from the government, right? Enough for beer and bread, as it were, and off we go.
Okay. So you tell my partner that's what I'm going to do and see what happens to you, right? So I look at my kids. I look at my kids and think that we're not lost. We're not lost. But I look at them and think that the options that we had available to us, at least the dreams that we had, the way that our society was built to support that if you can dream it, you can do it. All of those things, and I look at them, and they're going to be put into service work. No doubt, right? Some kind of service. They'll be, just performing some gap where the robot can't do it, or that we've gone past robots back to humans because we didn't like the way robots treated us, or something, right? Or there's going to be like a robot, killing spree where they've remembered all these hard times and gotten back at us. Maybe they download the original Space Invaders log of who played it, all those save games. I went, you bastard! You're on my list, right? Can you imagine how quickly fortuitously they'd be able to create a list from access to everything that's out there. In Australia, we're about to publish our medical records online because that's going to be great, right? There's an opt out and as a future thing where you can just choose to delete it. For some reason. I don't know why you want to do that. But the benefit, of course, was supposed to be that you can travel around and your medical records can be available to whichever doctor you're going to. Of course, that's in opposition to the way... Hang on. No, that's exactly what it's currently. It's just a way of being able to publish it to the government. There you go. That's what it is. All right. So now they're going to have a centralized database with all the medical records. Is that a good thing? How does that affect your employment possibilities? How does that affect your if you're going to attempt to not work for the dole, but acquire some benefits of some kind? What happens to your insurances if they can look it up? Because remember, the same thing, equally strong, is the social media access that the government has because they've legalized now the ability to gain information from social media for their benefit. They've actually bought a whole bunch of data off social media. So look, at some point, this is going to be accessible. People are going to have access to it. But where does it leave you? And you go, oh, well, I don't do anything wrong, so that's my defense. Is it really? So what happens if someone finds out something about you and then is able to use that against you? Like, this is the kind of thing, Mackie, we've asked for this for ourselves because they told us we needed it. So then we've all put our hands up and I'll have it. But in the end, what does it do for us? It draws us closer and closer to 1984. George Orwell should be a god because he predicted all of this. He must have been from somewhere else. But from his perspective, this was the most ridiculous scenario that he could possibly even fathom that we would allow ourselves to get into. Over to you.
No, look.
It's mind-boggling, right?
No. Well, it is. But
and how quickly we've done it.
It's human nature, right? It's and someone really has to beat on us, right? Someone really has to beat on who we are and what we are like. And human beings, I don't think human beings ever change. I think neither us nor our predecessors were any different when it comes to the actual human nature of the thing, right? I mean, our very psychology, our makeup. I don't think there's ever been a change in this particular reality. I'm not astounded at all, but I'm worried. It's a worry.
Mekki, when you're silent, searching for a word to describe yourself, that worries me.
Yeah, I know, right? It's worried. This is probably the best word, because I've read I don't know, thousands of books of science fiction, right? I've read comic books as well, science fiction. I've read a lot. And always in there, and in Metropolis probably has the best. The Fritz Lang movie from the 1920s, German sci-fi movie. Really
I love that.
Right, and they all have the same theme, right? I mean, we're just going to be ground up in the machine. We're just going to be ground up in the machine, and the machine eventually will eat us up. Now, the machine is not necessarily an actual machine. In this case, it could very well be, right? And it'll spit us out. And this makes me mindful of a conversation I had a long time ago with the father of a friend of mine, who happened to read Nexus. Now, I read Nexus. We're talking more than 20 years ago now, right? I had written a letter to Nexus. Now, he didn't know I read Nexus, and I didn't know he read Nexus, but we both read Nexus, and there you go, and he read my letter. And I went over to his house, and we used to just hang out there, have dinner, work out in the backyard, whatever. And he had chat with me, and he goes, I've read you, so, what do you think about this? And that's a bit of a chat. And he goes to me, you can't stand against a machine. It'll grind you up. There's really no point to stand against a machine. And he's not wrong. And there's a lot of topics that I wouldn't touch with 10-foot pole on this, because it would immediately affect my life. I don't care if there's one person listening to this, or 2 or 5 million. It makes no difference, right? There's some topics, and I've spoken to Dave about this, and one of those topics is la la. No, but I mean, everybody's talking about it. I would never ever do any serious research into the clinic in my life. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? And into of the ongoing state, I would not do it. It's just not worth it. And there are other things as well. And some things really I find disturbing and shocking. But the way it has happened for us here, and the way that everything has developed and gone down, this is, again, it's human nature, like I said. But I also think it's a deliberate guiding of where everybody wanted us to be at a certain point. Right, we're the most empowered, Dave. We're the most empowered generation that has ever lived, and we're also the most disenfranchised. Okay, most empowered.
And I never thought that they could be separate. I never thought that they'd be separated from each other, and they'd be inversely proportional to each other.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, how is that possible? Right now, it's possible because we are, like I said, bombarded with information, right? We're so empowered. We can instantaneously communicate. We can know what's going to happen across the globe. We can know what's happening on the dark side of the moon now. We can know a whole bunch of stuff immediately. We are the most knowledge rich society, civilization
that's ever lived that we know of.
Well, as far as we know, yeah, that's correct. For the last 5,000 years, certainly.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're the most disenfranchised because nobody really is interested anymore. If I look around the world, not everywhere, but in most places, 90% of the politicians that we have in power today, right, and the systems that are in power, would have sparked revolutions 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. There would be revolutions. There would be heads rolling, all right? And then,
literally.
and not to conjure up too gory an image, but there'd be blood in the street. But there isn't. There isn't, because we just don't care enough. I mean, okay, the yellow vests, that was, I guess, a thing in Europe, starting in France, other things as well. But other where you think flashpoints that you think surely should have ignited something? No, didn't ignite anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're just happy enough to do what we do, and we think we know a lot. We think we have the information. The truth is we don't have the information. We have a lot of misinformation. We have a lot of information that is not information. It's fake information. Again, to borrow from recent language adventures, we have fake information. We all the stuff we know is mostly wrong. I ask you a simple question. Let me ask you a simple question. Everybody out there in the world.
The music's going to start any second. There it
Homework. Is. Why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue?
I love that. I was right on the money then. Look, it's only a very short station break. There's going to be some bumpers. We're going to come back after the top of the hour. So take the time to donate to the station. And click on the ads too. Take care.
By the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who express them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to David Mackey's Shiny Side Out, show number 359, talking about black budgets today. The answer to the question before the break is because of Rayleigh scattering. Rayleigh scattering. Light moves as waves of different lengths, as you maybe remember from high school physics. Some are short, making bluer light, and some are long, making redder light. As sunlight reaches our atmosphere, molecules near scatter the bluer light, but let the red light pass through, which changes, of course, as the sun sets or rises. That's why we get the red light in the morning, and in the evening it also passes through a thick atmosphere or layer of atmosphere at that point. That's why the sky is blue. Rayleigh scattering. Okay. Now, I urge you all to know these things, please. And if you don't think they're true, that's okay too. Then find out why they are true in your world, right? And find out what your truth is. But I urge everybody to be involved and being enfranchised, not disenfranchised. Yeah? We are all part of a knowledge economy here in the world now, right? And we have a lot of that stuff on our fingertips. Unfortunately, someone's ignorance is not as good as my knowledge, or anyone's knowledge for that matter. Okay, so please don't make that mistake. Right here now.
Just right before we start, yeah. We've got some thunderstorms, and right through the break there was some lightning at my place here. I've got a UPS, so I'm protected. If something happens, I'll message Mackie anyway and let him know what's going on. And I'm watching the radar, and I could see a definite hook around, and on the Doppler it showed that was rotation. Somewhere between Mittagong and Kiama, but it looks like that's dispersed itself. So if it turned out to be a short-lived tornado, then we'll just have to look at the news. But there you go.
Wow.
It's definite. You can see it. You can see the rotation on the radar. So very happy. And I'm also a registered storm chaser for anyone who's interested.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool. I had no idea you were. But that's
yeah,
cool.
Completely. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So, black budgets. Meki, what is a black budget?
No, before we tell you what it is, why is this important? Because it's important, as we said earlier, because there's money that's being spent. Okay, and this is not a secret. This is a black budget that is being approved by whatever governing body you have in your country. There's a black budget and no one knows how it's spent. Just don't know. You don't need to know. It's your money, but you don't need to know how to spend it. Probably a bit like your household. But a black budget is a government budget that is allocated for classified all other secret operations of a nation. I think it was JFK that said it. That this is the secret government that shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be this kind of secrecy is just wrong. Anyway, the black budget is an account expense and spending related to military research and covert operations. The black budget is mostly classified due to security reasons, or so they tell us. The black budget can be complicated to calculate, but in the United States it has been estimated to be over $50 billion a year. $50 billion for stuff you don't know what it is. But Dave, tell us a bit more about the United States black budget.
A black budget is a government budget that is allocated for classified or other secret operations of nations.
And we did that.
Yeah. Oh, you did that already. Is that right?
Yeah, we did that.
Because I've been looking at the radar, and all right. So the United States, for instance, the United States Department of Defense has a black budget it uses to fund black projects. Now, these are expenditures that does not want to disclose publicly. So these are announced in a closed session and approved of by somebody, and this money is spent on goodwill. I suspect that it's going to take place. The annual cost of the United States defense black budget was estimated at $30 billion in 2008, but it was increased to an estimated $50 billion in 2009. And a black budget article by the Washington Post, for instance, but it is the Washington Post, based on information given by Edward Snowden, detailed how the US allocated $52.8 billion in 2012 for their black budget. The black budget has been known to hide multiple types of projects from elected officials, with secret code names and hidden figures. The details of the black budget are revealed only to certain people of Congress, if at all. This budget was approved by the US National Security Act of 1947. Think about that. They created the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Council, and reorganized some military bases with help of the Defense Department. This was also the year, Mekki, that the NACA turned into NASA.
That's right.
The US government claims that the money given to this budget investigates advanced sciences and technologies for military use. This kind of research is responsible for the creation of new aircraft, weapons, and satellites. In 2018, some new newspapers reported that the Trump administration asked for $81.1 billion of the 2019 black budget. For the black budget, not of it. The request included $59.9 billion for the National Intelligence Program, covering non-military programs and activities. Also $21 billion for the Military Intelligence Program, which covers intelligence activities by the Department of Defense. And there's a quote, in total, these two are more than 3.4% higher than the financial year of 2018 request, and the largest since then, ... And it's the largest announced since the government began disclosing its intelligence budget request in 2007. According to the Washington Times, Andrew Blake. That's some big numbers.
Yeah.
Like, you could understand what you could buy for that, right?
A lot.
You could buy a lot.
A lot of everything. Thank you very much.
Remember, yeah, in different colours. I have different colours. So looking back in time, we know where some of this has been spent. So the F-117, like the stealth fighter, clearly after 25 years of research, it became a thing and was used in the Iraq conflict. Yeah. We know that, right? So looking back, we can see what they've been spent on. But since then, for the next 25 years, 30 years, we don't even know what it's been spent on. because we haven't seen the output. So what tremendous technology must they have today, which is so costly, I wonder. And it makes me wonder continuously.
Yeah.
Dead air, Meki. What are we talking about? Russia next?
No. Oh yeah, no, but you're right. It is an amazing amount of money that we're talking about. Yeah, no, so Russia also has a black budget. I think of most interest to us here, the United States and Russia. We don't know what the Chinese black budget is because they don't declare what their budgets are, so we have no idea. But according to an estimate by the Moscow-based Gaia Institute, about 21%, which is about 3.2 trillion rubles, and I don't know what that's in US dollars, of the Russian federal budget was black, which means not itemized in 2015. This represents a doubling from 2010. The increase coincided with huge increases in the Russian military budget under President Vladimir Putin, rather. So even the Russians have had a massive increase in non-accounted or non-disclosed funds for, whatever purpose, really. It's a lot of money.
So
now, the next...
Are we just talking about, like someone ordered a pencil, but the pencil's gone up from 20 cents to $50 or something, right? We know it can't be that.
Yeah, no. No, it's not.
Because that question comes up all the time.
Okay, 10 cents. 1 ruble is So 1 ruble is about 1 cent. 1 ruble is 1.
Okay.
So 2 cents. So you divide it by 100. So that's 3,000. That's 30 billion. It's about 30 billion, 32 billion.
Okay, it's not big numbers.
Roughly.
And of course,
numbers, right?
The USSR doesn't exist really, right? On paper, maybe it doesn't, right? But in real life, there's certainly a lot of money there.
Oh, absolutely. Now, this article was written in March of last year, 2018, and lawmakers renewed call for an end to black budget secrecy. Interestingly enough, a bipartisan group of lawmakers on Thursday renewed, which was Thursday in March of 2018, renewed a push to require the president to disclose the top-line budget request for each of the 16 federal agencies that make up the U.S. intelligence community. Currently, only the overall top-line figure is not classified, split between two aggregates of military and national intelligence like the CIA and the FBI. The bill from Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, and Ron Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, in the Senate, and Jim Sensenbrenner, Republican in Wisconsin, and Peter Welch, Democrat in Vermont, in the House would require the president's annual budget request to make public an agency-by-agency breakdown. Protecting our national security, I'm quoting here, means keeping many things secret from enemies. But Congress should not be the ones in the dark, Paul said in a statement. Just as the military can provide budget information without jeopardizing our security, so too can the intelligence community. Critics of the move argue that providing that level of detail, particularly in the case of smaller agencies, would give away too much information to adversaries about U.S. intelligence priorities. Only since 2017 has the national intelligence budget been made public. Before that, we had no idea how much money they were spending. It's probably less than today. We can safely assume that. Welch, with supporting from Sensenbrenner, has pushed since 2014 to cut down on the secrecy surrounding the so-called black budget, but has been rebuffed by both the Obama and Trump administrations. Because I don't care what your politics are, you're cutting into my bones, so just step off, man, step off. Okay? Beyond the disclosure of the NIP top-line figures, there will be no other disclosures of currently classified NIP budget information because such disclosures could harm national security. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence said in its 2019 budget request. In 2013, the former NSA contractor Edward Snowden provided detailed figures on that year's budget to the Washington Post, revealing a dominant $14.7 billion in CIA funding, an increase of over 50% between 2004 and 2013, and $10.8 billion in NSA funding. With the exception of the relevant intelligence and armed services committees, lawmakers are largely in the dark, leading to dubious policies, wasted money, and questionable effectiveness. according to Welch. Now, the Trump administration requested a total of $81 billion for the year 2019. Like we said, $59 billion for national intelligence and $21 billion for military intelligence. And that's up from the 78.4 the administration requested for 2018. Dave?
That is such a lot of money. My goodness me. Yeah. The Trump administration requests the record $81.1 billion for black budget. Now, this is the Andrew Blake story. The Washington Times, Wednesday, February 28th, 2018. The Trump administration has asked for $81 billion in funding for the secretive so-called black budget that bankrolls US intelligence operations, constituting the largest request of its kind ever revealed. President Trump has requested $59.9 billion in fiscal 2019 for the National Intelligence Program, or NIP, part of the budget that covers that all non-military efforts. The US Office of the Director of National Intelligence announced on Tuesday. The administration separately asked for $21.2 billion in fiscal 2019 meant for the Military Intelligence Program, or MIP, the remaining black budget component that encompasses the US Department of Defense's intelligence activities, including programs conducted by units including the US Special Operations Command and the Office of Naval Intelligence, among others, the Pentagon said Tuesday in its own announcement. Don't forget, we have to also add the Space Force, Mekki. And the Space Force must join or accumulate with the Space Command, because that's also an agency. Combined, the $81.1 billion requested constitute an increase of 3.4% over the $78.4 billion the Trump administration wanted for the fiscal 2018 year, the prior year, in turn making the latest figure the largest amount ever publicized since the government began disclosing its intelligence budget's requests in 2007. This is a quote, any and all subsidiary information concerning the NIP, whether the information concerns particular intelligence agencies or particular intelligence programs, will not be disclosed, said the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Beyond the disclosure of the NIP top-line figure, there will be no other disclosures of currently classified NIP budget information, because such disclosures could harm national security. The only exceptions to the foregoing are the unclassified appropriations, such as for the Intelligence Committee management account. The Pentagon, meanwhile, said that releasing solely the $21.1 billion top-line figure does not jeopardize any classified activities within the MIP. No other MIP budget figures or program details will be released, as they remain classified for national security reasons, the Pentagon said. Congress will ultimately decide how much of the amount to appropriate, albeit after the current fiscal year ends in September 30. While typically kept under wraps, former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden revealed previously unreported details about the black budget by leaking records in 2013 that showed how funding was divided among intelligence agencies. The CIA and NSA received $14.7 and $10.5 billion, respectively, during the fiscal 2013 year, or more than a third than the $67.6 billion allocated that year among civilian and military intelligence programs, according to the leak. Now, Mekki, every time I hear the year in which Snowden released his details, it just keeps going further back in time, right? So we're 2019, that was 2013, that was 6 years ago. 6. And to think what kind of hop, step and jump technology leaps we've had, you can only imagine, like when he released his information, I thought for sure, this brings it back to the top of the hour, last hour, I thought for sure there'd be people protesting in the streets and governments heads rolling and, you know, the impeachment and there was nothing.
Yeah.
We didn't complain.
Like I said, but it goes to our earlier point of being the most enabled and the most disenfranchised, self-disenfranchised generation in history, maybe, if you will, in the Western world, certainly. We just, I don't know, nothing makes our blood boil anymore, Dave. I mean, maybe passion is dead. I don't know.
We're so desensitized. Oh, what the hell, right? It's like you give it to us, Quimby.
Yeah. Crisis. Oh, wait, facing a crisis. Over. Oh. That was close. So no, look, it is like that. It's and you know what? The only thing that we can change here is the way we teach our youngsters. Right? This is really up to us. And I know. Everybody says, that's the responsibility of the school to teach our children. Well, yeah.
Some of it.
It is, but you still have a responsibility at home. You know, they look to you for guidance if you're the primary caregiver or parent or whatever the case may be, right? They will look to you to understand what the moral compass is, right? And they will ask you questions about the world, right?
That's a very funny statement today, isn't it? Moral compass.
I know it is, and guess what? We still need one. And this is really where. Sorry to digress. We're going to go into the text in just a second. If you've listened to the show before, you know that happens all the time. But we have outstripped, or our technological advances have outstripped our ethics and morality. We have gone into territory that is completely uncharted. Our legal system can't catch up with it. Our ethical foundation, our moral foundation, even our religious foundation can't catch up with the things we can do.
It takes years for them. It takes years for them to catch up.
Questions.
Yeah, you think about this. What happens when AI comes?
Well,
if AI started attacking us today, right? Real AI, real true AI, in a form that we're incapable of stopping.
Yeah.
Because we can't legislate quick enough.
But the thing is, we wouldn't have a clue. We wouldn't have a clue how to deal with it. And truly, I mean, if we came upon truly alien entities, right? And I'm not talking about the things we've been experiencing so far, but truly so different from us that we have no common ground. Mm-hmm. I mean, what would you do there? How would you deal with that? I mean, there's a lot of stuff where we're just not ready at all. And this is one of those things, right? I mean, we have lost the ability to quickly evaluate the reality. I believe we have, right? And it's showing in our reaction to most of these things, right? We just don't know how to react anymore. I mean, it used to be easy in the olden days, you know. Okay, and this is the world, and this is how we're meant to act in it. And that's harder now. It's a lot harder, right? People always credit the Wachowski brothers with the Matrix idea. That's nonsense. That's complete nonsense. Right, because Plato 2,500 years ago in his cave allegory, pretty much postulated the Matrix. He said that we all, so people are bound, and all they see is this rock wall, and the shadows dancing on the rock wall. They think that's reality, right? And then one guy escapes, climbs out of the cave, looks at the real world, goes back to his fellow cave inmates, if you will, tries to tell them about the real world, and they beat them to death because they don't want to hear about it, right? So they just look at the cave wall with the shadows.
That is still pertinent today.
It is. It's the Matrix.
I know.
It's the Matrix, right? It's our inability to step out of it. Anyway, the next section is called the Snowden revelations. It is still an important piece of information, I think. Even it's been with us for some time now. in the latest revelation, made possible by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, the Washington Post, which is again some years ago now, published investigative analysis and interactive map of America's so-called black budget, which details the $52.6 billion allotment of taxpayer money that funds the government's intelligence gathering colossus that has previously remained insulated from the eyes of the American public. Through a series of revelations, though a series of revelations have flowed from the Snowden leaks over recent months, this is the first detailed financial picture of how public monies are used to fund programs that Americans still know very little about. Critique as a collected-all strategy by those concerned about constitutional and privacy violations, the last surveillance network has been slammed at home and abroad. According to the Post, the black budget maps a bureaucratic and operational landscape that has never been subject to public scrutiny. Although the government has annually released its overall level of intelligence spending since 2007, it has not divulged how it uses those funds or how it performs against the goals set by the president and Congress. The 178-page budget summary for the National Intelligence Program details the successes, failures, and objectives of the 16 spy agencies that make up the U.S. intelligence community, which has 107,035 employees. The summary describes cutting-edge technologies, agent recruiting, and ongoing operations. The Washington Post is withholding some information after consultation with U.S. officials who expressed concerns about the risk of intelligence sources and methods. Dave?
Sensitive details are so pervasive in the documents that the Post is publishing only summary tables and charts online. A view into what the newspaper terms the US espionage empire, the blueprint and summary documents obtained by the Post provides a detailed look at how the US intelligence community has been reconfigured by the massive infusion of resources that followed the September 11 attacks in 2001. According to the reporting, the $52.6 billion far exceeded estimates about the amount of money being spent on clandestine spying and surveillance operations, and that figure does not even include an additional $23 billion specifically geared to CIA and NSA operations done in direct support of the US military and on the people. In addition to providing what is repeatedly referred to as an unprecedented look inside the financial operations of both the CIA and the NSA, the summary report leaked by Snowden also shows the enormous rate of operational growth at the CIA in the last decade, including a surge in resources for the agency funded, secret prisons, if you didn't know about those, a controversial interrogation program, the deployment of lethal drones, and a huge expansion of its counter-terrorism center. In an additional and ironic twist, the documents trace the development of an internal counter-terrorism efforts at the NSA and how to prevent sensitive leaks from occurring from within the US intelligence system. And I'll just put this last post. As the Post reports, the document describes programs to mitigate insider threats by trusted insiders who seek to exploit their authorized access to sensitive information to harm US interests. The agencies had budgeted for a major counterintelligence initiative in the fiscal 2012, but most of those resources were diverted to an all-hands emergency response to successive floods of classified data released by the anti-secrecy group WikiLeaks. Wow. I'm going to stop there, Mackie. Keep going.
Okay. And for this year, the budget promised a new focus on safeguarding classified networks and a strict review of high-risk, high-gain applicants and contractors. The young, non-traditional computer coders with the skills the NSA needed. Among them was Snowden, then a 29-year-old contract computer specialist who had been trained by the NSA to circumvent computer network security. He was copying thousands of highly classified documents at an NSA facility in Hawaii and preparing to leak them as the agency embarked on a security sweep. The next is actually an analytical article of the Snowden leaks, which I found very interesting. So we can. It's called Black Budget Summary, which was written by Barton Gellman and Greg Miller in 2013, and it was published in the Washington Post. U.S. spy agencies have built an intelligence-gathering colossus since the attacks of September 11, 2001, but remain unable to provide critical information to the president on a range of national secrets. According to the government's top, the $52.6 billion black budget for fiscal 2013 obtained by the Washington Post from former intelligence contractor Edward Snowden maps a bureaucratic operational landscape that has never been subject to public scrutiny. The summary describes cutting-edge technologies, as Dave has mentioned earlier, right? And the Post is withholding some information, as we've mentioned as well. Sensitive details are so pervasive in the documents that the Post is publishing only summary tables, right? Now, the United States has made a considerable investment in the intelligence community since the terror attacks of 9/11, a time which includes wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Arab Spring, the proliferation, my God, is it that long ago, the Arab Spring? Jeez. The proliferation of weapons of mass destruction technology, asymmetric threats in such areas as cyber warfare. Director of National Intelligence, James R. Clapper Jr., wrote in response to inquiries from the Post. So this is coming directly from the Director of National Intelligence here, right? In response to the Washington Post article. I'm quoting here. Our budgets are classified as they could provide insight for foreign intelligence services to discern our top national priorities, capabilities, and sources and methods that allow us to obtain information to counter threats, he said. Among the notable revelations in the budgets, spending by the CIA has surged past that of every other spy agency with $14.7 billion in requested funding for 2013. The figure vastly exceeds outside estimates and is nearly 50% above that of the NSA, which conducts eavesdropping operations and has long been considered the behemoth of the community. The CIA and NSA have begun aggressive new efforts to hack into foreign computer networks to steal information or sabotage enemy systems, embracing what the budget refers to as offensive cyber operations. Long before the Snowden leaks, the U.S. intelligence community worried about anomalous behavior by employees and contractors with access to classified material. The NSA planned to ward off a potential insider compromise of sensitive information by reinvestigating at least 4,000 people this year, or 2013, who hold high-level security clearances. U.S. intelligence officials take an active interest in friends as well as foes. Pakistan is described in detail as an intractable target, and counterintelligence operations are strategically focused against the priority targets of China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and Israel. Yeah. The latter is a U.S. ally, but has a history of espionage attempts against the United States. In words, deeds, and dollars, intelligence agencies remain fixed on terrorism as the gravest threat to national security, which is listed first among 5 mission objectives. Counterterrorism programs employ 1 in 4 members of the intelligence workforce and account for 1/3 of the intelligence program spending. The governments of Iran, China, and Russia are difficult to penetrate, but North Korea's may be the most opaque. There are 5 critical gaps in U.S. intelligence about Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs, and analysts know virtually nothing about the intentions of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Dave?
Formerly known as the Congressional Budget Justification for the National Intelligence Program. I want to be at the committee that decided that name. The top secret blueprint represents, because surely there wasn't any way of making it smaller. The top secret blueprint represents spending levels proposed to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees in February of 2012. The Congress may have made changes before the fiscal year began in October 1st. James Clapper, and I mentioned him in my top of the story there, is expected to release the actual total spending figure after the fiscal year ends in September 30. The document describes a constellation of spy agencies that track millions of surveillance targets and carry out operations that include hundreds of lethal strikes, with their drones, by the way, and other. They are organised around 5 priorities: combating terrorism, stopping the spread of nuclear and other unconventional weapons, warning US leaders about critical events overseas, defending against foreign espionage, and conducting cyber operations. That's also that offensive cyber operation, as well as defensive, I'm sure. In an introduction, Clapper said the threats facing the United States virtually defy rank ordering. He warned of hard choices, as the intelligence community, sometimes referred to as the IC, seeks to rein in spending after a decade of often double-digit budget increases. The current budget proposal envisions that spending will remain roughly level through 2017 and amounts to a case against substantial cuts. Remember, if you're in government, if you don't spend it, you lose it. Never before has the IC, that's the Intelligence Committee, been called upon to master such complexity and so many issues in such a resource-constrained environment, Clapper wrote. Wow. Now, the intelligence community, also the QAnon component, seems to have an insider leaking information, which is important to note at this point in this discussion. And it appears as though they're attempting to stop there's a true inside view now within what they're calling the deep state within the US government to try to bring down Trump and its supporters. Isn't that extraordinary? So this inward facing team is, or parts of, or at least one person has to be doing something negative against the current president. Now, you know what? If you were involved with the approval of that budget, which no one is, then you'd have to be able to have some control. Is that not really the way I'm going here? They'd have to have something, right? You'd imagine that, but there's none of that. And some call it the government within the government, or some call it the deep state.
And we'll get to that, the worlds within worlds, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
It's one of the themes. In fact, it's you can think of it as an espionage empire, if you really want.
What a segue!
What a segue! The king of segues right here. And the summary provides a detailed look at how the U.S. intelligence community has been reconfigured by the massive infusion of resources that followed the 2001 attacks. The United States has spent more than $500 billion on intelligence during that period. $500 billion. An outlay that U.S. officials say has succeeded in its main objective, preventing another catastrophic attack in the United States. The result is an espionage empire with resources and reach beyond those of any adversary, sustained even now by spending that rivals or exceeds the levels at the height of the Cold War. The current total budget request was 2.4% below that of fiscal 2012. In constant dollars, it was about twice the estimated size of the 2001 budget and 25% above that of 2006, 5 years into what was then known as the global war on terror. Historical data on U.S. intelligence spending is largely non-existent, though through extrapolation, experts have estimated that Cold War spending probably peaked in the late 1980s at an amount that would be equivalent of $71 billion today. So remember that Trump just requested $81 billion for 2019, so well in excess of the peak of the Cold War. Spending in the most recent cycle surpassed that amount, which is 2013 again we're talking about here, based on the $52.6 billion. So it's $30 billion above. Today, it's $30 billion above than what it was in 2013. So from 2013 to today, it has grown by $30 billion. Right? Lee H. Hamilton, an Indiana Democrat who chaired the House Intelligence Committee and co-chaired the commission that investigated the September 11 attacks, said that access to budget details would enable and inform public debate on intelligence spending for the first time. Much as Snowden's disclosures of NSA surveillance programs brought attention to operations that had assembled data on nearly every U.S. citizen. Do we still remember that? Do we remember that, Dave? Is that something that people remember? Maybe not, right? It's not.
Don't forget, it's not just U.S. citizens though. It's every citizen on the planet they could see.
It was everybody. I'm quoting here now. Yeah. So Hamilton said, much of the work that the intelligence community does has a profound impact on the life of ordinary Americans, and they ought not to be excluded from the process. He goes on, nobody's arguing that we should be so transparent as to create dangers for the country. But he added, there is a mindset in the national security community. Leave it to us, we can handle it. The American people have to trust us. They carry it to quite an extraordinary length so that they have resisted over a period of decades transparency. The burden of persuasion as to keeping something secret should be on the intelligence community. The burden should not be on the American public. Experts said that access to such details about your spy programs is without precedent. It was a titanic struggle, just to get the top-line budget number disclosed. That has only been done consistently since 2007, said Stephen Aftergood, an expert at the Federation of American Scientists, a Washington-based organization that provides analysis of national security issues. But a real, he goes on, grasp of the structure and operations of the intelligence bureaucracy has been totally beyond public reach. This kind of material, even on a historical basis, has simply not been available. The only meaningful frame of reference came in 1994 when a congressional subcommittee inadvertently published a partial breakdown of the National Intelligence Program. At the time, the CIA, the CIP, the CIX, at the time, the CIA accounted for just 4.8 billion of a budget that totaled 43.4 billion in 2012 dollars. The NSA and the National Reconnaissance Office, which operates satellites and other sensors, commanded far larger shares of U.S. intelligence budgets until years after the Cold War ended. During the past decade, though, they have taken a backseat to the CIA. The NSA was in line to receive $10.5 billion in 2013, and the NRO was to get $10.3 billion, both far below the CIA, whose share had surged 28% of the total budget. Overall, the US government spends 10 times as much on the Defense Department as it does in spy agencies. Today's world is as fluid and unstable as it has been in the past half century, Clapper said in his statement to the Post. And he goes on, even with stepped up spending on the IC over the past decade, the United States currently spends less than 1% of GDP on the intelligence community. Okay.
Wow, I'm still flabbergasted at these figures and their immense, like the immensity of these operations. Like they must be absolutely phenomenal. And we're thinking with the cutting edge technology and their duplication of services and being able to see everything online as it's on the line, as it's currently live, their ability to counter, VPNs and what we call today like secure websites, to be able to intercept that traffic and decipher it on the fly. So you've got to know to what extent it is. Now in Australia, our government has just passed a law saying no one can have a VPN without us seeing through it. So good luck with that. Just saying that means nothing is hidden. You can't hide behind encryption, right? Because the encryption has now basically been outlawed. You're not allowed. You can have as much as you like, but we'll see through it. Don't even worry about that. Which I think we've just done a deal with the US from Australia, has done a deal to gain some of that technology, because these spends are so large in the US IC that it's you've got to make some of that money back. Surely we paid for it, right? To be part of the team. Yeah, that's what I see. That's what I see. Because I don't think you don't need double-digit IQ to see through this, right? Anyway, so what is it? Where does that leave us?
Double-digit IQ.
I said you don't need a double-digit IQ to see through this.
That leaves you below the 100 mark, right?
If I said you don't need a double-digit IQ, we're in single digits, my friend. Right? So I'm basically saying the damp sponge next to my sink
No,
has worked this
I-
out. That's what I'm saying. Right?
I'm
With all the DNA likeness, with the cheese in my fridge of 23%, 23% likeness to that DNA, guess what? It's worked this out.
It's worked it out.
All right. So my IQ is enough for Mensa, right? And that's all I'll say. So the dominant, it's true. The dominant position is
I'm too smart for Mensa.
what? What was that?
I'm too smart for Mensa. I'm too smart for Mensa. True.
And that,
true.
and the Stephen Hawking's group that he had going, I can't log into that anymore. Yeah. He had the above Mensa group, I remember. Yeah. Anyway. So I thought that was funny. It was too soon. So anyway, the dominant position. The CIA's dominant position is likely to stun outside experts. It represents the remarkable recovery from an agency that seemed poised to lose power and prestige after acknowledging intelligence failures leading up to the 2001 attacks and the 2003 US-led invasions of Iraq. The surge, because remember that weapons of mass destruction thing that was a big lie? Oh, we got our intel wrong. Completely wrong. But you're still attacked anyway, right? Yeah, okay. Where's that 4 o'clock in the morning knock on by the FBI for them? Anyway, so the surge...
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
No one. They're not going to knock on their own doors. Send their friends. The surge in resources for the agency-funded secret prisons and controversial interrogation program. Remember waterboarding? That was the thing. The deployment of lethal drones. Remember lethal drones? They could just program a drone to go kill a person, and then that's the end of that. It just flies home and done, right? Remember those things? Apparently, I've heard that they were used within the US as well.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either if that was the truth. And a huge expansion of its counter-terrorism centre. Whatever that means. I thought that was all the NSA buildings all put together. I don't know. The agency was transformed from a spy service struggling to emerge from the Cold War into a paramilitary force. Think about that. The CIA has devoted billions of dollars to recruiting and training a new generation of case officers, like Scully and Mulder, with the workforce growing from about 17,000.
I want to believe.
I want to believe, yeah, so I get the poster. A decade ago to surging from 17,000 to 21,000 this year. That was in 2013. The agency's budget allocates 2.3 billion for human intelligence operations and 2.5 to cover the cost of supporting security, logistics, and other needs of those missions around the world. Remember, this isn't just within the US. A relatively small amount of that total is only 68.6 million, and I say only, because we're talking in the billions, was earmarked for creating and maintaining cover the false identities employed by the operatives overseas. So if you've seen Born Identity, you know what you're talking about. There's a bunch of fake passports and everything like that and cover. There is no specific entry for the CIA's fleet of armed drones in the budget summary, but a broad line item hints at the dimensions of the agency's expanded paramilitary role, providing more than 2.6 billion for covert actions programs that would include drone operations in Pakistan and Yemen. Wow, Yemen. Payments to militias in Afghanistan and Africa. Who knew we were in Africa? Attempts to sabotage Iran's nuclear program. Well, we knew that one happened with that virus. The black budget illuminates, for the first time, the intelligence burden of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. For 2013, US spy agencies were projected to spend 4.9 billion on overseas contingency operations. Don't even know what that means. Contingency? What, even if it fails? Is that like Plan B? Is that Plan B?
Plan B! Plan B!
Run away, run away. The CIA accounted for about half of that figure, a sum factored into its overall $14.7 billion budget. Those war expenditures are projected to shrink as the United States withdraws forces from Afghanistan. That's really funny. The budget also indicates that the intelligence community has cut the number of contractors it hires over the past 5 years by about 30%. Now, just shrink? That's really funny. Because, you know, when one door closes, Becky, another one opens, right?
Oh, don't you worry about that. You know, we got a one conflict zone going cold. We can heat up another one. And the funny thing is, this was written in 2013, right?
It's still
As
valid.
we are withdrawing from Afghanistan. The United States is going to go. Are they soon? I'm sure. It's but hey, you know, look.
They went into Syria.
It's a serious business. Yeah, I know, right?
And now
they have to go somewhere.
And it's predicted they're going to go into Iran next. That's the prediction.
I wouldn't be astounded. This is again, the Saudis don't really have much. Both the Saudis and Israel don't really like Iran, Yemen, or Syria for that matter. So
Clearly, the Saudis don't like Yemen. They've been bombing it for a while.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's. I mean, it's one of the biggest crises in the world right now. Maybe people forget it. It's bigger than the Syria crisis. It's bigger than ISIS. The ISIS crisis, right?
Yeah, the ISIS crisis, and it isn't in the media, and that's the thing that really worries me. It's one of those hidden wars, hidden bombing campaigns, hidden killing sprees that isn't being talked about.
100%. That's 100% correct. It's a real worry. I think we can. I'll be able to.
I think we have to stop. Do you reckon? Go! Your time starts now.
How much longer do we have to?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Yeah, we can. Despite the vast outlays, we're talking about critical gaps now. The budget blueprint catalogs persistent, and in some cases, critical blind spots. Throughout the document, U.S. spy agencies attempt to rate their efforts in tables akin to report cards, generally citing progress, but often acknowledging that only a fraction of their questions could be answered, even on the community's foremost priority, counterterrorism. In 2011, the budget assessment says intelligence agencies made at least moderate progress on 38 of the 50 top counterterrorism gaps. The term used to describe blind spots, the gaps. Several concern Lebanon's Hezbollah movement, an enemy of Israel that has not attacked U.S. interests directly since the 1990s. Other blank spots include the question about the security of Pakistan's nuclear components when they are being transported, the capabilities of China's next-generation fighter aircraft, and how Russia's government leaders are likely to respond to potentially destabilizing events in Moscow, such as large protests and terrorism. A chart outlining efforts to address key questions on biological and chemical weapons is particularly bleak. U.S. agencies set annual goals for at least 5 categories of intelligence collection related to these weapons. In 2011, the agency made headway on just 2 gaps. A year earlier, the mark was 0. The documents describe expanded efforts to collect on Russian chemical warfare countermeasures and assess the security of biological and chemical laboratories in Pakistan. A table of critical gaps listed 5 for North Korea, more than for any other country that has pursued or is pursuing a nuclear bomb. The intelligence community seems particularly daunted by the emergence of homegrown terrorists who plan attacks in the United States without direct support or instruction from abroad. A threat realized this year after the budget was submitted in the twin bombings of the Boston Marathon. The National Counterterrorism Center has convened, this is that long ago, dozens of analysts from other agencies in attempts to identify indicators that could help law enforcement officials understand the path from religious extremism to violence. The FBI was in line for funding and increase the number of agents who surreptitiously track activity on jihadist websites. But a year before the bombings in Boston, the search for meaningful insight into the stages of radicalization was described as one of the more challenging intelligence gaps.
Do you know
There we are.
Do you know what it appears to be, right? It appears to be that while the IC were losing ground internally within the US and became surprised because of these other events, that it becomes a natural progression, like to see what they're doing in China now with the social media, the points, is a bit like citizen points of being a good citizen socially on Facebook. right? If you've got your fingers into what people are posting in social media now more than ever, and providing a way to benefit those who are doing the right thing, and punishing those who aren't doing the right thing, that's like the panopticon. This is absolutely a way of self-policing the citizen base, isn't it?
It is, and there's the music. Donate if you can. Come back next week for more of the same.
And stay tuned for a roundtable with Jer Bear coming up next.